Imagine a dog so lazy that it hasn't moved a single muscle in like 4 hours.
Right.
You look over at the sofa, and there it is, just curled up under a thick fleece blanket, eyes half closed.
Just completely passed out.
Exactly. And, I mean, if you didn't know any better, you'd think you were looking at the single least athletic animal on planet Earth.
Oh, easily.
But then you take the leash off the hook by the door, you walk that exact same dog out to an open field, you unclip the collar, and, well, something biologically shocking happens.
It really is.
In a fraction of a second, that sleepy couch potato transforms into this elastic, silent, just unbelievably fast blur, hitting nearly 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's wild.
Welcome to the biological paradox of the Whippet. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this bizarre extreme for you. We're pulling from some fantastic source material to look at a creature that seems to only operate at 0 or 100. And our mission today is figuring out exactly how you care for a body built for such intense duality.
Because it really is a stunning transformation to witness. And to truly grasp what is happening here, I mean, we have to establish a core baseline right from the start.
Right.
Taking care of an animal engineered like this isn't about giving them more exercise. It is entirely about precision.
Precision.
Yes, it's about providing the exact right movement in a highly controlled environment and then following that up with profound, absolutely necessary rest.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even begin to talk about that incredible explosive speed, we really have to understand the stillness.
We do.
I've heard so many people look at a Whippet indoors and just assume, they're fundamentally lazy dogs. But that's a massive trap, isn't it?
It's an incredibly common misconception. I mean, if you watch an animal spend 90% of its day resting quietly indoors, you naturally assume it has zero drive.
Right, like they just don't want to do anything.
Exactly. But what you are looking at isn't a lack of energy. What you are observing is biological preservation. That stillness is the deliberate storage of fuel.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think about human athletes. Marathon runners and sprinters have entirely different physiological makeups.
Yeah, totally different builds.
Right. Marathon runners rely on slow-twitch muscle fibers for endurance. But sprinters, they rely on fast-twitch muscle fibers.
Oh.
They are designed to output this massive, devastating amount of kinetic energy in a very short window. To do that, the cells actually require profound rest to restore their energy reserves.
So it's intentional.
Completely. That indoor quietness isn't a flaw in the dog's design. It is the very mechanism that makes their speed possible.
So it's basically like a smartphone automatically dropping into low power mode.
Yeah.
It shuts down all the background apps,
That is a great analogy, yeah.
dims the screen, and just hoards its battery life
Yeah.
because it's preparing for a massive energy drain later.
Exactly. It's hoarding kinetic potential. But that exact survival mechanism creates a real problem for owners.
Oh, so.
Well, that profound indoor quietness tricks people into thinking that basic daily walks just aren't necessary. They think, well, the dog's asleep, so it must not need to go out.
Oh, I see. But I mean, even in low power mode, you still need to plug the phone in.
Right.
You still have to engage the operating system.
Yeah.
So if they are sprinters and they aren't built for endurance, do I actually need to take them on a standard walk?
You absolutely do, because an unwalked dog might be physically resting, but they are mentally starving.
Mentally starving.
Yeah. We aren't just talking about burning calories on a walk. For a Sighthound, a walk is critical sensory input.
Oh, no.
It's essential sniffing time, which engages their olfactory system and tires out their brain. It's leash practice, routine, and crucial exposure to the sights, sounds, and chaos of the real world.
So a quiet dog indoors is not the same thing as a mentally satisfied dog.
Precisely.
That makes total sense. But let me push back on this a little bit. If they aren't endurance dogs and they aren't built to jog alongside me for like 5 miles, how do you actually know if you've walked them enough?
Right. People always want a metric.
Yeah. Is there a magic number? Like, do I hit 2 miles and just call it a day?
I know you want a fixed number, but the biology just doesn't work that way. The magic number is whatever the specific dog in front of you needs on that specific day.
So it changes.
It does. You have to read their nervous system. Sudden reluctance to keep walking or unusual heavy fatigue means you've pushed their anaerobic system too far.
Oh, wow. Okay.
On the flip side, if you get back home and they are pacing or there's this unresolved restlessness, that's your metric that the walk lacked enough sensory input.
They didn't get enough data.
Right. They didn't get enough mental stimulation to settle. It depends heavily on their age, their current fitness level, and even the weather outside.
All right. So let's say you've got the walk right. They've downloaded all their sensory data. Their muscles are warmed up. Now, how do we safely unleash the sprinter?
Carefully. Very carefully.
Because I always assumed you just take a fast dog to a big park and let him loose. But according to the sources, that is a recipe for absolute disaster.
It is incredibly dangerous. Sprinting is a beautiful thing to watch, but it transforms into a genuine, life-threatening hazard if the environment isn't perfectly calibrated for the physics of what is happening.
The physics.
Yes. We are talking about 30 to 40 pounds of animal moving at 40 miles per hour. The sheer kinetic energy involved is massive.
So what does a calibrated environment actually look like then?
Secure, properly fenced areas are absolutely mandatory. You have to physically check the gates to ensure they are locked before you unclip that leash.
You can't just assume they're closed.
Never. Because at those speeds, the hazards are everywhere, and a dog moving that fast simply cannot stop or change course in time.
Like what kind of hazards?
Open parking lots, unfenced fields, areas near roads, or spaces where wildlife or livestock might suddenly appear, these are absolute deal breakers.
Because they're just gone.
Right. If a Whippet locks onto a target and bolts toward a road, they will cover 100 yards before you can even take a breath to shout their name.
Wow. And it's not just the perimeter you have to worry about, right? It's the actual ground beneath their feet.
Oh, the footing is crucial.
Because if a dog is going from 0 to 40 miles an hour in 3 seconds, the sheer G-force on their joints must be immense.
What's fascinating here is the physics of their cornering. Think about a dog moving at maximum speed and then suddenly having to make a hard banked turn to chase something.
I can't even imagine.
The sheer force being placed on their tiny carpal joints in their lower legs is staggering.
Ouch.
If that ground has a hidden hole, a sharp rock, slippery wet grass, ice, or even just really rough, uneven footing, the torque will cause a catastrophic physical failure.
Like broken bones.
We are talking about shattered bones, torn ligaments, or horrific collisions. You are the architect of their safety.
That brings up a great phrase from the text, which is, a Whippet speed is beautiful only when the environment is safe enough to hold it.
That perfectly sums it up.
Okay, so you found the perfect track. The gates are checked, the ground is soft, flat, dry. But they don't just run laps for the sake of jogging, do they? What actually flips the switch?
It's definitely not a casual jog.
Because we've all seen dogs just kind of casually chase each other around a dog park, but this is described as something entirely different.
It is a deeply ingrained biological prey drive response, and the triggers for that response are surprisingly broad.
Really? Like broader than just squirrels?
Much broader. We naturally assume it's just squirrels, rabbits, or birds, but it could be deer, livestock, cyclists, runners.
Cyclists, wow.
Yeah, or even just a small fast dog or a child sprinting across a field. Anything moving quickly and unexpectedly away from them can flip that internal switch.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. I've always thought that if you put in the hours, and you train your dog incredibly well, good training will always beat instinct.
It's a nice thought.
Right,
Yeah.
like why can't you just call them back once they start running? Surely a perfect recall command solves this.
That is a very dangerous assumption to make with a Sighthound.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Recall training is essential, yes.
Yeah.
You build it using a long line and incredibly high-value rewards. But a strong recall in a quiet, familiar park is absolutely not a guarantee when that prey drive kicks in.
Why not?
This raises an important question about their neurology. Once a Whippet is in full pursuit, they aren't ignoring you to be disobedient. They are experiencing a neurological override.
A neurological override.
Yes, their brain is completely flooded with adrenaline. Their optic nerve literally narrows to create a tunnel vision lock on their target.
Wow.
The part of their brain that processes auditory commands your voice is effectively shut down. The biological instinct completely overrides the training.
That is wild. So their brain just shuts off everything except the target.
Everything.
So what do? Just cross your fingers and hope they don't see a squirrel?
Prevention is your entire strategy. You have to learn to recognize something called the tell.
The tell. It's like playing a high-stakes game of poker with your dog. What does that actually look like?
It happens in a fraction of a second. Before they run, the dog's head lifts. Their entire body goes completely rigidly still. Their eyes fixate on something in the distance, and you can literally see this coiled, spring-like tension gather in their hindquarters.
Like they're about to launch.
Exactly. That exact moment, that split second of hesitation, is your only window. You have to act right then.
Should you interrupt it?
You call them back, or you physically leash them before the neurological switch flips and the chase begins. Because if you wait until they've launched, the training is gone and you are too late.
Let's talk about the physical body that survives this kind of explosive 0 to 60 pursuit. To handle that kind of force safely, the dog's body condition has to be perfectly tuned, right?
Absolutely.
We need to talk about the engine and the chassis, because they always look incredibly skinny to me. Is that actually healthy?
The physical frame of a Whippet is highly aerodynamic and extremely light. That means any extra weight is not just an aesthetic issue, it is a structural danger.
Structural danger. Okay, why?
Imagine putting a 10-pound weighted vest on a human sprinter. It alters their center of gravity. For a Whippet, extra weight ruins their sprinting comfort, completely destroys their stamina, and exponentially increases the sheer force on their joints during those high-speed turns we talked about.
So they absolutely must be kept lean.
Yes, they must.
But there is a massive difference between being lean and being weak, right?
Exactly. Distinguishing between the two is vital for you as the owner. Healthy leanness is a byproduct of fitness, you see muscle definition.
Right.
But a dog might look lean simply because they are suffering from hidden muscle loss, which can happen due to aging, a lack of the right activity, or an underlying health issue.
Ah, so they're just losing mass.
Right. Muscle atrophy means a loss of structural strength. Physiologically, one is a primed, protected athlete, and the other is a severely weakened, vulnerable animal.
Let me push back on the weight thing for a second. Let's say it's been a really long winter, and I'm looking at my dog, and they've definitely put on a few extra pounds.
It happens.
Shouldn't I just take them to that safe, fenced field and let them sprint it off? Like, let them do what they are genetically built to do to burn those calories.
Absolutely not.
Right.
You never, ever push hard running on a dog that isn't biologically conditioned for it at that moment.
Oh, because of the extra weight.
Yes. If they are carrying extra weight, their center of gravity is off and their ligaments are already under passive stress.
Makes sense.
If you ask an unconditioned, overweight dog to hit 40 miles an hour and make a banked turn, you aren't burning calories. You are creating a recipe for a torn muscle or a blown joint.
Yikes. So how do you actually fix it without breaking them?
You build fitness incredibly slowly. You review their food portions. You cut out the sneaky table treats, and you gradually increase low-impact movement.
So just more walking.
More walking, more sniffing. You don't put them on a crash diet, and you certainly don't borrow a hardcore cardiovascular conditioning plan meant for a competitive, professional racing dog.
Right. Keep it realistic.
Exactly. You have to adapt the exercise to the pet in front of you.
And that adaptation applies to their life stages, too. I mean, if you have a puppy, you might think you need to run them to tire them out.
People do think that.
But their skeletal system is basically under construction. The growth plates haven't closed, so long runs or repetitive high-impact jumping is totally off the table.
Because the torque will cause permanent skeletal damage. With puppies, you focus on play and coordination.
Okay.
In fact, one of the biggest dangers for a young Whippet isn't outdoors at all. It's uncontrolled indoor running, the zoomies on slippery hardwood floors.
Oh, the sliding around.
Yes. The sliding and crashing into furniture puts devastating torque on those developing joints.
And on the complete other end of the spectrum, with senior dogs, the principle is to modify the chassis maintenance, not eliminate it entirely, right?
Correct.
You don't just stop walking them. You shift to shorter walks, softer surfaces, and maybe add a warm layer. But you really have to watch for sudden changes in their behavior.
Right. If an older dog suddenly stops wanting to move or refuses to run, it's not just them getting old. That sudden refusal is often a primary indicator of hidden pain. It could be dental discomfort, cardiovascular changes in the heart or lungs, or onset arthritis. Any sudden slowdown means you need a vet to evaluate the chassis.
Okay, but let's zoom out for a second. We don't live in a temperature-controlled wind tunnel. We live in the real world.
Right, with lots of variables.
Exactly. How does this highly tuned, incredibly sensitive biological machine handle real-world variables? Like living in a high-rise city apartment or dealing with extreme weather. You'd think a sprinter would just destroy a small apartment.
People are always shocked by this, but Whippets can actually thrive in apartments.
Really?
Yeah. And it's entirely because of that low power mode we talked about earlier. Their profound indoor calm makes them excellent small space companions.
But only if you manage the outside world perfectly.
Exactly. Being quiet in a small space doesn't mean their biological need for kinetic release has vanished.
Right.
It just means you, as the owner, have to travel further to safely meet it. You have to actively plan their trips to safe, fenced outdoor runs.
That makes sense.
And crucially, you have to socialize their nervous system to the intense sensory input of city life. Things like elevators, traffic noise, sirens, crowded hallways.
And then there is the weather. I look at them, and they seem so pathetic in the cold. Why are they so heavily impacted by temperature drops?
It's pure thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics, okay.
They have a massive surface area to volume ratio, virtually zero insulating body fat, and a very short single-layer coat. Physiologically, they have no defense against temperature loss.
Oh, so they literally can't stay warm.
No. The cold cuts right through them to the point where their muscles will actually cramp and they will refuse to move. So winter survival requires thick coats, sweaters, warm indoor bedding, and the owner's awareness of when to simply abort the walk and go home.
But heat is just as dangerous, right? Maybe even more so.
Heat is drastically more dangerous.
Why?
Think about the internal combustion happening in those fast-twitch muscles during a sprint. They are generating massive amounts of internal heat in seconds, and dogs don't sweat like we do.
Right, they pant.
And panting isn't enough at those speeds. They can overheat and suffer heat stroke incredibly rapidly. Furthermore, their paw pads are highly sensitive.
Oh, the hot pavement.
Exactly. The friction of running, combined with hot summer pavement, will cause severe peeling burns. In the heat, you have to seek out shade, always carry water, and restrict any running exclusively to the coolest parts of the early morning or late evening.
And what about rain and wind? Because I've seen them just flat out refuse to step in a puddle.
Oh, they generally despise it. Again, that lack of fur leaves their thin skin completely exposed to the elements. The sensation of driving rain is highly uncomfortable for them.
But they still have to go out.
Yes. Bad weather does not cancel their biological needs. You still need a toileting and movement plan.
So what do you do?
You might have to invest in specialized rain gear or map out a covered walking route under awnings or parking garages. If we connect this to the bigger picture, weather does not cancel Whippet care. It simply changes the plan.
It simply changes the plan. That's a great rule for dog ownership in general.
It really is.
All right, so let's say the sprint is over. The weather was managed, the environment was safe. The dog is back on the leash, panting, and you are walking home. Now we have to look at the immediate aftermath of combining that extreme high speed with a very fragile exterior.
This is where we look at their highly specific injury profile.
Right.
When you combine 40 miles an hour with paper-thin skin, you have an animal that is highly vulnerable to lacerations and tears.
Just because they don't have that thick fur to protect them.
Exactly. The lack of thick fur reduces aerodynamic drag, which makes them fast, but it removes their physical armor.
Oh, I see.
A minor collision, rough play with another dog, brushing past wire fencing, stepping on hidden broken glass, or just running through thorny brush at high speed, these things don't just scratch a whippet, they act like a scalpel.
Man, it totally reminds me of watching a pit crew swarm a Formula One car immediately after a race.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right, because a normal car is built to, tap a bumper in a grocery store parking lot and be fine.
Yeah.
But an F1 car is built purely for speed, which makes it incredibly fragile. The pit crew is running their hands over the tires looking for micro abrasions. They are checking the aerodynamic fins for tiny stress fractures. As an owner of this breed, you essentially have to become that pit crew.
That is the perfect analogy. You cannot just bring them inside and toss them on the sofa.
You have to inspect them.
You have to build a non-negotiable habit of a post-run physical inspection. You are actively palpating the muscles, checking the paw pads for micro tears or burns, inspecting the nails to ensure none have cracked under the torque, running your hands over their thin skin to feel for unseen scrapes, and intensely watching their gait as their adrenaline drops to see if a hidden limp emerges.
And if you find something, like a deep cut or a persistent limp, because my instinct is always to just, wait a day and see if it gets better.
No wait and see with this physiology.
Really?
None. A deep cut, a joint that looks swollen, an eye injury from a stray branch, or any obvious display of pain means an immediate trip to the vet.
Go straight to the vet.
Immediately. And a crucial life-saving rule for you listening. Never, ever try to treat them with human pain medications like ibuprofen or acetaminophen. It is highly toxic to their system.
So you've checked the chassis, the body is sound.
Yeah.
But the deep dive also highlighted another crucial aspect of the post-sprint reality, which is the mental cool down. Exercise isn't just a physical output, right?
Precisely. Once the physical energy is depleted, you need to transition their nervous system back to that low power mode.
How do you do that?
You can tire a dog out safely without them ever breaking a sweat through mental stimulation. Sniffing games, food puzzles, or focused handling and obedience exercises require deep concentration, which is exhausting for them.
But there was a major caveat to that in the sources, wasn't there? You don't want to play the wrong kind of game.
Right. You absolutely do not want to use high-energy games like aggressively throwing a ball down a narrow apartment hallway.
Oh, because it triggers the drive.
Exactly. It revs up their prey drive in an unsafe, confined location. Mental simulation is fantastic, but you must keep those explosive chase instincts turned off unless you are standing in that perfectly safe, fully fenced environment.
So what does this all mean for you, the person who might actually bring one of these paradoxes into your home? If we wrap up this core philosophy, caring for a Whippet requires absolute, unwavering precision.
It does.
It's about taking total responsibility for managing their environment so their biological need for speed is actually safe to express. It's understanding the intense physical vulnerability of their thin skin and incredibly light frame. And most importantly, it's respecting that rest, that 4-hour nap under a fleece blanket, is not a gap in their care. It is their care.
It demands a state of active hypervigilance from you, the owner. You are the one building the secure conditions.
Because the dog can't do it.
Yeah. Right. The dog is just doing what its neurology demands it to do. This dramatic cycle of explosive sprinting and profound stillness only functions if you are constantly managing the boundaries and protecting their fragile frame from the physics of their own speed.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We spent this entire deep dive looking at the Whippet's extreme lifestyle as this bizarre quirk of canine biology. But think about our own lives for a second.
Okay.
Most of us constantly live in this gray zone, a state of chronic, low-level stress and moderate exhaustion. We are never fully sprinting at max capacity, but we are never ever fully resting either.
That is so true.
Our phones are always buzzing, our brains are always half on. What if the Whippet actually has it right? What would happen if you structured your own life a little more like theirs? Giving yourself permission to engage in periods of intense, absolute, unapologetic focus and output. But only if you balance it with periods of unapologetic, profound, utterly unbothered rest. Just returning to the couch on a Tuesday afternoon, curling up under a fleece blanket, closing your eyes and letting the world wait while you don't twitch a single muscle.